If you have Photoshop in around 10 minutes, I'm going to show how you can recreate this. The first thing I did was load this grass PNG that I found online onto the graphic. And you can either screenshot it or I can send it to you. If you leave a comment or message me, I can send you the exact PNG that I have. But you also might be able to find it online. And then after doing that, I went ahead and added the first picture of the player that I wanted to use. And the first thing I did whenever I got this picture loaded, I wanted to add a camera raw filter just to really try to make the picture like as clear as possible. So whenever I go to the selection tool and select and mask the player, it will help make sure that the whole picture of the player is transformed over and there's not a bunch of like missing parts of the player. Because there's a lot of times when after you do this and you click select subject, like there's going to be missing parts of the player, whether it's his hand where the white gloves are or his feet. And adding the camera raw filter can just really help smooth the edges out, and also using shift edge right here. But I really didn't need to use it much because it did pretty well after selecting it. And then right here I was just adding the main text of the graphic, which is the number 300, because a few games ago I made this a few weeks ago right after a game where he rushed for 300 yards, and I was gonna make this video sooner, but I just didn't get around to it. But after I found the font that I want, I made sure to put that behind the picture of him, behind that layer. And the main part of this graphic is going to be a lot of tweets, or I guess post about him on X. And I'm gonna kind of make a clipping mask after I make the rectangle right here. So you just go over to the rectangle tool, and then obviously draw the rectangle over the tweet that you want to, show on the graphic. Make sure it's white too. Well, you can use a black rectangle. I just don't really know how it would look. I guess it depends on what color your background's going to be. But then after you make the rectangle, you're going to want to put the tweet layer above the rectangle and then create a clipping mask, and it'll just it will load in like that. And then I wanted to add a drop shadow to really make the rectangle pop a little bit more, and it just gives it that dark look under the tweet, and it just kind of makes it stand out a little bit more. And then I was just doing the same thing right here. As you can see, create a rectangle above the part of the tweet that I want to have saved onto the graphic, and then drag that layer over the rectangle, create a clipping mask, and then go down to the rectangle, drop shadow, and then I added this as well just to make it pop a little bit more. And then right here I added in the other picture that I used for the graphic. I just put it behind the number 300, and I lowered the opacity a little bit. And then right here I just wanted to add in the final tweet that I used and follow the same steps with the drop shadow. And then right here I was adding in a background texture that I got from texturelabs.com, and after finding one that I liked, I load that in and lower the opacity just to add room for what I'm about to do right here, which is add a layer above that, and then go over here to the gradient tool, and then up to the gradient toolbar. And to make sure only the parts of the graphic I want affected are affected, I make sure the two top bars over here that you'll see in a second I make sure those two top ones are black, and then the bottom left I just changed to, obviously in this case, yellow. And then the other one I want to make like the bottom right box, and you can go back to pause if this is confusing, but the bottom right box I'm going to want to be like that gray color of the graphic. And there's a few different ways that you can do this, but just using the gradient layer like I just did, I found to be pretty effective for me. And then right here I was just adding in some arrows that I found online, because I was going to add in some information like his hometown right here. And you can message me if you want the fonts that I'm using, but yeah, I was just adding in some arrows that I found because it helps make the graphic pop a little bit more. And then right there I was just adding his name, and I changed it up a little bit because I put it in the top left at first, and then I didn't really like the way it looked, so I moved it down towards the bottom and then added the blue verification mark. And then whenever I liked the way it looked, besides the coloring, I wanted to make one final camera raw filter. And the way that I make the colors pop, especially the yellow, is I want to add a lot of texture and clarity, and then make sure the vibrance is turned up a lot. And then whenever I go down here to the saturation layer and the color mixer, I really wanted to enhance the yellows and even the oranges a little bit, just to try to make the colors pop as much as possible. And then after doing that, you can see how much more color there is in the graphic. There's the before, and here's the after. And that's why doing the final camera raw filter is really important, because it just helps enhance the graphic way more. And then here's the final graphic. If you made it to the end, thank you for watching, and I'm going to be dropping more videos this week.